And we're live.
Are the microphones on?
Yes, they are.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 12th meeting. It's a regular meeting of Trinity County Planning Commission. Before we get started, would everyone join me for a Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So to get us started, do we have a public comment? At the public comment, we have members of the public may directly address the Planning Commission on any agenda item on the regular calendar for the Planning Commission's consideration.
We're gonna
Sure. Any? Okay, any public comment in the room? Okay, we'll close public comment. Now to the regular calendar. Our first item is to approve the minutes. Do I have
A motion to approve the minutes. I'll second.
perfect? Do we have to have a roll call for that?
Mm.
Nope. So everybody, aye.
Aye.
Item 2 on the agenda is a request for an extension of time for a tentative parcel map P-24-10 Yordanov.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Before you is an extension of time request for tentative parcel map P-1736, which is located at 420 Blake Mountain Trail in Hyampom. The application is requesting for the approved tentative parcel map to be extended for an additional 24 months to July 17th, 2026. Staff recommends approval in order to allow the applicant additional time to complete the remaining 11 of 48 conditions. And the applicant and their representative are also here tonight if you have any questions.
Do we have any questions for staff?
Is the delay for the 11 of 48 primarily due to county staffing, or is it on the land proponents?
I'm going to let them also chime in, but there is one component, the road naming, that is being held up by, well, that is processing with the county right now. And I hope to see it before you guys pretty soon.
Thank
Or not you, it would go to the Board of Supervisors actually for approval.
Perfect. Any other questions? If we could hear from the applicant.
Howdy, Commissioners. Nathaniel Gravett, professional land surveyor with Trinity Valley Engineering. I've been working with Chris to get this project going over the last couple of years, year and a half, something of that nature. We've been making a lot of progress in that time. It was largely totally abandoned by the prior engineering firm. That was circumstance of dealing with county staff. Not saying that's the current paradigm, but it was at that time. We took it on in the last year and a half. We've been working with county to get it very close to the end. We just have a couple outstanding items at this point. County staff in its current iteration has been doing a good job getting us there. We've been pleased, but we do still have a couple hurdles. The road naming is one, a road inspection through DOT is another, construction's been completed. The big one I foresee is dealing with the Forest Service. We have a dedication that the county is requesting, happen with the Forest Service over a portion of road. Forest Service is largely non-communicative over this issue. I've been working with them in dialogue, heard from them earlier this week. They didn't have much to say, but that is the big hangup, is the Forest Service at this point. I suspect that everything involving the county can be resolved within the next coming few months, most likely. Forest Service, we don't know. So that's the request for an extension. Per Subdivision Map Act, we do still actually have several years worth of extensions available through discretionary approval through your team. So that's what we're hoping to get. Another 12 months, 24 months, something like that. And I think we'll get there. Thank you. You have questions?
Do we have a,
Yes. Why is the applicant, the owner, interested in this division of the parcel?
You'll have to speak to him about that.
And of the remaining 11 items that need to be addressed, do any pertain to the wells or the sewer leach fields?
11 items that need, nothing.
You
Okay.
said there were 11 out of 48, and he mentioned roads. Are they all related to roads? Thank you.
I know wells have been drilled. I'm not sure about septic. I've been involved with the tentative map and grading plan. So we'll probably have to have Chris speak to that one.
All of them are road related.
Thank you.
any other questions for the consultant?
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we now hear from the applicant?
Hi, I'm Krasimir Jordanov, applicant for that project since 2017. And to explain the whole that project is kind of going to be a little bit difficult and long. You are new and you don't know, but the original requirements in the county cannabis program was one parcel, one license, one person, one, and that was the initial one. Now I'm not interested in that, of course, but after 7 years and several hundred thousands of dollars spent, I would like to close that project, obviously. If you have any question, everything being done, septics and roads and wells drilled and reported and sewer systems approved and maps. Basically, few things on the road and Forest Service easement, actually. We're trying to find Forest Service, to give the easement of the Forest Service going through my property about the road. We're not asking for easement from them to go through them. But they're not accepting even that invitation to get easement through the road.
Any other questions for the applicant?
None.
Thank you, Mr. Jordanov. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open it up to public comment.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, in your role as Chair, members of the Commission, Tom Belenko, Douglas City. I've been working kind of on and off with this application since it was submitted. I will say since the last time we were here to now, we have probably covered more ground in those 18, 20 months than the first 5.5 years, due in no small part to both TVC's involvement and the impromptu subdivision review committee we put together to kind of get the critical players in a room together. DOT, planning, it just has really streamlined things and we've made a lot of progress. I think we're closer than this 2-year extension might make it appear to wrapping this thing up. There are a few things with the county. I don't see any of those being particularly time consuming. The mention about the easement, which is only the deepest of state, county, and federal bureaucracies could come up with a delay like this. But if you imagine the parcel we're talking about to be a rectangle, 320-acre rectangle, there is a road, Curlin Creek Road, that nicks the corner of the parcel. That is the access road from South Fork Road to the parcel. It becomes a Forest Service road. Mr. Yordanov's predecessor in interest back in the 1950s, I believe, granted an easement to the Forest Service for use of that road. It's a historic mining era road, Curlin Creek Road, granted it to the Forest Service for public use. The surveyor that described that road described the corner of the parcel. The road that existed at the time of that easement and that currently exists now has not been changed, runs maybe 45 feet off of that corner. So Mr. Yordanov is fine with granting the easement to accurately describe where the road is to the Forest Service. Whether we can get the Forest Service to accept that is up to their lands division, which they say is understaffed and overworked. So that dedication's already been done. Mr. Yordanov's done what he's done. The surveyor has described it. What the Forest Service does to say, okay, we'll take it or not is our potential sticking point. But otherwise, we're going to get there. This 2 years helps. It's more cushion than we need, but we'd certainly appreciate this extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belango. Any other comments from the room?
Acting Chair Barrett, I just call you Rory, and the Planning Commissioners Lisa Wright from Lewiston. I think there's a little bit more backstory maybe to share with you. We'll let you know that the company that I own, Flora, we do land use permitting, environmental regulatory compliance, a great deal of work in the cannabis space. Mr. Yordanov has been very active in that space, and he is always on par with meeting all of the requirements of the program. He acts in a very timely manner, is extremely responsive to any corrections that are needed, changes, et cetera. So he's been, really a stellar applicant from that perspective, from my perspective in working with the cannabis program. He would come in and talk to me about this particular challenge he was having with the subdivision and DOT in particular. I don't think this is an isolated incident where literally things would sit with our county DOT for months with no response. Months and months turn into years, and now we're 7 years later in this project, and what's left? Roads. A Forest Service easement that the Forest Service is incredibly difficult and unresponsive. We work with them as well in the uses permit area, as well as on NEPA and some other issues. Very, very slow in getting things done. And very, very slow in responding to things. So not to make excuses for an applicant, certainly, but just from my perspective, all of my interactions with him, he's been extremely diligent, responsive, and it's really been affected severely by government inaction. What this does as well is it puts the county in the position of fewer property tax dollars. He had full intentions of years ago developing those parcels. The county is in budget deficit, yet the projects like this are being delayed and not funded and not being paid the proper attention. We cannot continue to neglect projects like this that can only benefit the county as a whole as well. So I ask for your consideration and approval in granting this extension tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Any other comment from the room? Any comment in Zoom?
No.
like to close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion.
So I would like to make a motion that the planning commission find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3. And we adopt resolution PC 2024-04, which is attachment F. And that we approve a 2-year extension of time for tentative parcel map P 1736 based on the recommended findings and subject to the conditions of approval found in Exhibit A of Trinity County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2018-042, which is attachment E.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion. Bring it back to us to discuss. Anybody have any thoughts or input?
I've been here a while and I pulled out my file for Mr. Yordanoff's different efforts he's, gone through over the years, and I appreciate you hanging in there. And yeah, that's why I would definitely like to see you complete that project.
Anybody else?
Just as in consideration of the natural resources, and not to hold this up or anything about how far this is in the process, but I would ask that planning and natural resources take a closer look at future subdivision proposals when it comes to water and resources, especially associated with our federally listed species, proposed listed species, California listed species. The South Fork Trinity is a very vulnerable river and very vulnerable system. And I just ask that there be some, I guess, see more review when it comes to impacting water and other uses within our beautiful natural resources and helping preserve all of our species for future generations. Thank you.
Commissioner Ellis? Nothing. Okay. We have a motion. Do we need a roll call?
Ellis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Fall?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleets?
I abstain.
And Chair Barrett?
Hi.
Okay, thank you. That's 3-1 in favor of the adoption of resolution 202404.
Good luck with your project, Mr. Yordanoff. Moving on to the next item. It's financial assurance cost estimate, Smith Tailings Phase 2, P-24.02 for Buick J.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Patrick Flynn, Environmental Compliance Specialist with Trinity County Natural Resources Division. And the item before you is labeled as P-24-02, but it's really just a component of that item, which was decided on July 11th and approved by the commission. And the financial assurance was not included in the meeting materials for that item, so it's brought before you for decision today. So I'll review where we're at and why the decision is before the commission today. I'll just go over a little bit of the SMARA terms that I'm going to use when I'm talking about the item here, and I'll present why the commission still needs to decide on this particular piece of the amendment, and then I'll provide my recommendation. So just brief refresher of definitions. SMARA stands for the Surface Mining Reclamation Act. A FACE is a financial assurance cost estimate, and a financial assurances is known as a FAM most of the time, an FAM. So those are some terms I'll be using. So where we're at tonight, the reclamation plan amendment for the Smith Tailings Phase 2 mine was approved by the commission on July 11th, 2024. And as I discussed during that meeting, SMARA requires financial assurances to be provided to the county and the state of California by the mine operator. And these are used in the event that the mining has been completed or the mine operator becomes insolvent. And these are usually in the form of a surety bond that's made out to the county and the state of California. And the financial assurance mechanisms, that's the surety bond, those are based on financial assurance cost estimates or FACEs that must be approved by Trinity County. And the dollar value of those FACEs are developed by estimating the amount of work that's required to achieve reclamation requirements in the approved reclamation plan. And so if a reclamation plan is amended, then a FACE must also be amended to account for the changes in the rec plan. So for example, if a reclamation plan estimates 80 hours of work to complete the work that's in the plan, and it's amended to require, for instance, 160 hours of work, then the FACE, financial assurance cost estimate, would need to be probably doubled to account for that amended rec plan. And likewise, the FACE can be amended to be a lower dollar amount if there's less work required. And under Trinity County Code Section 17.30A.070 subsection M, the Planning Commission shall take action to approve the financial assurances pursuant to Public Resources Code Section 2770 subsection D, which is just SMARA code that instructs counties how to approve financial assurances. So for Smith Tailings Phase 2, the commission approved the reclamation plan amendment that removed the reclamation requirements from the property on July 11th. And this was in anticipation of a contracted sale to BLM, which is still on schedule to take place this October. And although the reclamation plan was amended to remove the requirements for work to take place to achieve a reclaimed state under SMARA, a FACE is still required to be approved by Trinity County and then submitted to the state. And in this case, since the operator has no obligation to conduct any further work to achieve reclamation, the dollar amount of the FACE and the financial responsibility of the operator under SMARA is $0. Hence, the value of the FACE that was in your meeting materials today on page 11 is notes a value of $0 to reclaim the mine because there's no work that needs to take place to reclaim it. And so usually in a process such as this, the commission might be considering something with a little bit more meat, like you might be considering an expansion of the mine. And so you'd be considering a dollar amount that reflects that. But in this case, it's just $0 because there's no work that's planned. And ideally, this would have been decided upon during the July 11th item, but it just oversight, it was not included in the meeting materials for that item. So to cover our bases and make sure we're compliant with county and state code, and to ensure a smooth transition to the Bureau of Land Management, it's before you today for a decision. And this is really the final step that the Planning Commission would need to be involved in to release the reclamation requirements for the Smith Pit mine and for the contracted sale to the BLM to go forward. So that's about all I have for the meat of the project. I'll just touch real briefly on Trinity County zoning code and general plan. As described in the July 11th meeting, the project that was approved on that meeting is consistent with the zoning code and general plan. I won't go into specifics of that right now, although I did bring the portion of the staff report from the July 11th meeting. We can talk about that if you'd like to. But in this case, since it was approved on July 11th, I'd say that the requirements within the zoning code and general plan were considered and were met at that meeting. Likewise with CEQA, this project was approved on July 11th as CEQA exempt. And so the decision before you is simply a component of that project that's being placed before the commission to ensure we comply with county and state code. And the FACE itself does not constitute an individual project and does not require a separate CEQA determination. Likewise with public comment, agency comments, letters of support, those were solicited for the July 11th meeting. We discussed them in detail at that time. I didn't go through the process of specifically soliciting any public comment for this particular item, although this was noticed for neighbors and in the Trinity Journal, as is typical for Planning Commission items. And that's all I have for you. I recommend approval of this, as this is really just a component of the decision that was made on July 11th and is the final piece of the process that's required for the Bureau of Land Management to take ownership of the property. And I can answer any questions. Just so you know, next steps, should it be approved tonight, I will then work with DMR, Division of Mine Reclamation staff, to send the financial assurance to them. And I've been working with them closely to ensure that we have a workflow in place that we can meet the October contracted sale for BLM. So I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn, for the presentation. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Flynn?
Yes, I have a question. What happens to the financial assurance that he had placed on it in the first place?
It would actually go back to the financial assurance was provided by the previous landowner. So the financial assurances would then go back to him. It would not go back to Mr. Buick. It will go back to Mr. Clint Robinson.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Nope. Thank you very much, Mr. Flynn. Is the applicant here? Can we hear from the applicant?
We've got some weird numbers. Mr. Buick, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say. Just wanted to give my support to Mr. Flynn for his presentation and hopefully get this resolved tonight.
Okay. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
Nope.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Buick.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to open up to public comment. Do we have public comment in the room? Any public comment on Zoom?
No.
Okay, I'd like to close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion.
We need a motion. So I'll move that the planning commission approve the financial assurance cost estimate as presented in the staff report.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion about the proposed motion? No? Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Leeds?
Aye.
Commissioner Fall?
Aye.
Commissioner Ellis?
Aye.
And Chair Barrett.
Aye.
All right, that's 5-0 in favor of the motion as presented.
4.
4. Excuse me. Correct me, what? Item 4. I'm not following what you're telling me. Sorry. Oh, sorry, 4 in favor. Sorry, what is it? 5? Oh, I'm running off Debbie's script. Yeah. 4 in favor of the motion as presented. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move on to item 4. That's the conditional use permit for commercial cannabis distribution license on CDL-24-01. White M.
Good evening, Commissioners. Drew Plabani, Cannabis Division Director. I was hopeful that we would have our new Assistant Planner for the Cannabis Division present this item tonight, but given some of the late comments, I decided to take the presentation. So I will go ahead and give you a bit of background on the project. I'm hopeful that you've all gotten a chance to both read the staff report and see the memo that I believe was provided to you at the beginning of the meeting. So as Commissioner Barrett stated, this is a conditional use permit for a commercial cannabis distribution facility located at 50 Nugget Lane, unit number C in Weaverville, California. Staff spent quite a bit of time going through in preparation and in the evaluation, for this project. I'll keep my introduction brief. I imagine that you'll have a number of clarifying questions for us. But essentially, the project was evaluated for, all of the applicable county code sections. As we were nearly done preparing the staff report, it came to our attention that there was the potential that there is a youth-oriented facility located at less than the required distance from this proposed distribution location. And so I think it's a bit of a unusual staff recommendation that we prepared for you all this evening. Essentially, under County Code Section 1730010 ambiguity, we asked that the Planning Commission make a determination as to whether or not the adjacent business or the nearby business, Trinity Dance and Fitness, is considered by you all to be a youth-oriented facility under that ambiguity code section. As we were preparing to publish this item, we received additional comments, which were included, some in the staff report and then some in the memo that you received this evening, kind of digging into some of the concerns from various community members about the youth-oriented facility topic, and then school buses or school bus stops. So I think I'll stop there. I imagine you have some questions for us, and staff will do our best to answer those questions. I believe we also have the applicants here this evening to answer any questions that you may have.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Poblani?
So I have a question. So do we know where the authorized bus stop actually is, where it is located?
So I'll give a little bit of history related to, my time in the cannabis division related to trying to understand how to evaluate for the 500-foot setback requirement that pretty much applies to most commercial cannabis. I believe it applies to all commercial cannabis license types at this point.
Some of it's 1,000 feet. This particular one is 500 feet.
So I believe it's 500 for all bus stops for all the applicable license types. Within there, it's 1,000 from schools potentially, or as you get into the different code sections, there are some differences between the various license types and those setback distances. I don't recall offhand, but I believe there's a difference in retail storefront, whether if you have a on-site consumption area, then the setback distance is greater. If you don't, then the setback distance is less.
Yeah, 1,000 versus 600.
Right, for retail.
Yep.
But I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's 500 feet for the bus stops across all the code sections. I'm happy to pull up county code and verify my statements if that's helpful. But yeah, that's my understanding. In any case, I'll
Right.
continue to answer your question, which is that in 2022, as we were going through our ongoing process, to deal with initially the huge backlog of projects, and then trying to create improvements to that process, specifically as it relates to how do we verify the setback requirements. At that time, staff reached out to the various school districts. And I believe the question that was posed was, can you provide us with GIS data points for us to include in our GIS layer so that we can evaluate whether or not proposed locations and licensed locations meet that setback requirement? At that time, what I understood staff to communicate to me, because I didn't make the phone calls myself, was that they reached out to the various school districts and they were told that they were not able to provide us with that information. In retrospect, I want to acknowledge that we could have posed that question differently and asked for a list potentially, or in some capacity, could they tell us, in any capacity, could they tell us where the bus stops were? At that time, we were told, no, we don't have GIS data for you, and the bus stops change every year depending on where students live, are being picked up from, et cetera. I'm no expert on how the school districts select bus stop locations. I can speak to my personal experience related to, one of my children going to school in Hayfork, which if I put her back in school presently, she basically, that would shut down a commercial cannabis license that is adjacent to where I live. So going forward, what we did for this project was to do the standard neighbor noticing, and all property owners within 300 feet of this location were notified via mail. Unfortunately,
Does that include tenants or just property owners?
it only includes the property owners. And so in scenarios like this, which are, not the majority of cannabis licenses or, cannabis use permits that we deal with regularly, that process doesn't capture well if there are multiple spaces within one specific property. So leading up to publishing the staff report, we did get, those comments from various members of the public. And so until I think shortly after we published this, we were not aware of the bus stop issue whatsoever. And we were only aware of the potential of the adjacent nearby business being, potentially a youth-oriented facility. I don't know if that helps to answer the question, Commissioner.
Well, it's, I spoke with the physical therapy staff and they said that's been a bus stop, for a long time, that they come down the Nugget Lane. So is there a way to ask the school district specifically where that authorized bus stop is? Is it the whole Nugget Lane? I don't think they can claim that. Or is it a specific place so that we can determine whether it, it complies with the ordinance or not?
And, given that this was identified after the preparation of the staff report, we weren't able to specifically confirm, an actual location. From what I've heard, it's in front of the dance studio, in front of the smoke shop, in front of Tangle Blue. So I'm not entirely sure where that bus stop is. Of course, we'd be happy to confirm that if you would like to continue this item to a later date. That's your pleasure, of course.
Any other questions for staff?
Is there an opportunity for the applicant for the distribution facility to apply for a variance within the 1,000 foot?
Yes, of course. I believe there is the opportunity for them to apply for a variance.
It would have to be a unique circumstance due to size, topography, or shape of the parcel. So that would be a little tricky.
And I've contemplated that, course forward, and I'm with you, Commissioner Fall, that, current code and, variance regulations are not well applied to this particular scenario.
Any other questions for staff?
How will any decisions made tonight impact any other permits existing within the area?
I don't believe that. Maybe if you could refine your question for me, I could answer it more effectively. I guess my inclination is to say, the item that is being presented before you tonight is what's on the table. In terms of your determination related to the ambiguous code section in that request, if in fact you determine that you all do consider that to be a youth-oriented facility, then I think that would be clear that for any other, future proposed cannabis license, that has that setback requirement from a youth-oriented facility, then it would be clear in our evaluation of that project whether or not that code is complied with.
Any other questions for staff?
More of a comment. So really the determination of what that facility is really what this hinges on. And for me personally to make that choice right now, it's only what I've heard is what I'm basing it on. So I don't see how we're supposed to give a qualified or fair response.
And so I'm happy to read through some of the documentation that we presented in the staff report, because staff did contemplate the potential of whether or not that was a youth-oriented facility. So, but I'm generally with you, and I feel similarly, which is why I passed it to the commission, because from my perspective, I don't think that staff should be in a position, likewise, I think you're feeling similarly, to make a subjective decision. All in all, I'd like to see code become more clear so that it's crystal clear there's no subjective decision to be made. But if it's helpful for you and for members of the public that are here in the room or listening online, I'm happy to just run through kind of what we analyzed based on the information that was available to us, looking at the website and the information that is publicly available.
I have a question there. So, 1743B.010, where it gives the definition of youth-oriented facility. In the staff report, you underlined providing services primarily intended for minors. Okay, that was a little fuzzy, if you're looking at the website. But the second section you didn't underline, and it says, or the individuals who regularly patronize, congregate, or assemble at the establishment are predominantly minors. So did you get any information from the dance studio as far as attendance? Because that second section, if you're looking at who actually attends versus who it's marketed to, that's two different things. And so, yeah, it's not marketed solely to minors, but do you have any data on who actually attends to make the decision whether or not it's meeting the last sentence of the definition?
And so, feel free to disregard my bold and underlined emphasis. That to me was more significant, but your comment is acknowledged. Again, back to the reason that I decided to reference the ambiguity code section. From my perspective, it seems difficult to rely on someone who is directly affected by this for that information. There's no third-party validator for that data per se. So I apologize for putting you all in the position to make that determination, but it didn't seem appropriate for me to, make that subjective decision one way or the other.
Yeah, I agree. That is a tough question.
Is there an opportunity for us in the future to change the code such that if existing youth facilities are present versus future youth facilities? I see that also as being a concern that needs to be addressed and clarified.
Yes, most certainly. I think that you can, in your motion for this item this evening, you can certainly, I think, direct staff to pursue an ordinance update. Alternatively, I think that it's something that we're well aware of, and you're all now well aware of, that this is quite an ambiguous and difficult code section, and we would address it with.
But isn't that
the ordinance updates?
That definition is what the state uses, isn't it?
No, the state is slightly different, and that's also included, and I'm happy to read it. The state uses California Health and Safety Code 11353.1 subsection E2, and it says youth center. It uses youth center, not youth-oriented facility. And youth center means any public or private facility that is primarily used to host recreational or social activities for minors, including but not limited to private youth membership organizations or clubs, social service teenage club facilities, video arcades, or similar amusement park facilities. So we did include that, but from my perspective, that doesn't really provide us any more significant clarity in terms of evaluating this, adjacent business under that particular definition either.
That's state code, not county code anyway, and county code's what we're weighing.
Agreed.
Any other questions for staff?
So just so I'm understanding correctly, adjacent tenants weren't specifically notified. Okay.
Yep. The existing process is to, using Parcel Quest, we identify the property owners within, a 300-foot radius of the parcel boundary. And those notices go out based on the assessor's listed property owner.
I have another question based on that. So this license requires a 500-foot setback, but you're only notifying parcels within 300 feet.
Right, the 500-foot setback. It's an interesting point that you bring up, and
I mean, it
certainly
potentially means that there's people that are directly affected not getting notified.
I think that's a fair point, and my life is somewhat plagued with inconsistent and incongruent code sections. So your comment is acknowledged, and I'd be more than happy for us to remedy that when we update the cannabis ordinance.
I mean, that's fair for anything that has a setback.
So what Bella is,
Sorry, I don't have a mic, but the noticing requirement is based on state law for public hearings in the state of California for projects. So that's where the 300 comes from. The 500 is a different use.
Understood, but the effect is still pretty huge on the person applying.
But
So
so
let's-
relative to
Yeah.
these specific issues, we could add to the ordinance such that then on top of state code, it is extended to add an additional 200 feet or something like that. So we wouldn't go under state law. We would only expand to then allow for all impacted parties to be noticed.
If
And not that, it's just, the budget is always on my mind, especially this
I
year. So
understand
that
what
would
you're
add
saying.
costs.
Copy. Thank you.
if I may, I'd like to kind of respond to that. Well, I agree that that would make good sense. It does work reasonably well in terms of dwellings because the assessor has that data. When you get down to businesses, we wouldn't necessarily be able to determine what businesses are located on a shared parcel because no one retains that information. So currently, if code were to be updated, I think it would require a manual knocking on the door of any door that existed, in a shared space. Maybe a good reason to consider business licenses. Because then we would have access to all of the businesses and we would already have access to legal residential structures that had been assessed.
I don't know if it's totally relevant, but it is on the same topic, just that in urban areas, which we do not count as an urban area, because you have to have like 1,000 people per whatever square footage, they post at the location site. Like they post the public notice on the door of the location site. So anybody like walking around would potentially notice it. That's one way to do it compared to, I don't know.
well,
Knocking on doors freaks me out.
And would that also then follow similar code to what is required for alcohol and tobacco distribution, sales?
I'm not aware of those laws.
I will say I am familiar with what you're referring to in terms of, a liquor license, right? It gets posted at the establishment. I am totally unfamiliar with how that works for a tobacco retailer.
remembered one that I dealt with in Trinity Center, and I think that they had to ask the assessor for the most current tax roll.
Well,
That's what we do, essentially, but through a software.
okay. To me, there's another way to extract that. I mean, most businesses are paying the intangible tax, so they're going to show up in the tax assessor's office with a physical location for where they pay their intangible tax. Because I know I have to pay that.
Register.
Okay, so, yeah, so that's something to definitely think about in the future to make sure that people get notified. But that was the end of my question. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, can we hear from the applicant?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to present this project. My name is Stephen Sutton, and I'm here to represent Main Street Distribution. We'll start off with an explanation of what a licensed cannabis distributor does and why it is important to Trinity County. A licensed cannabis distributor has an extremely important role to play in the California cannabis business supply chain. Per California Department of Cannabis Control regulations, farmers cannot transport their own products to licensed cannabis retail stores. A distributor is the only license type which can deliver cannabis goods directly to retail stores. Licensed cannabis must be tested for potency, cannabinoids, foreign material, heavy metals, microbial impurities, mycotoxins, moisture content, residual pesticides, residual solvents, processing chemicals, and if applicable, terpenoids. Test samples must be picked up from a licensed distribution facility, not a cultivator. Distributors can package and deliver products to retail stores all over the state. The California Cannabis Distribution License is the middleman between cannabis cultivators and retail store outlets. Distribution is the only pathway to the legal retail market. Without distribution, Trinity County farmers cannot bring their cannabis to market. They're forced to sell their product in bulk to out-of-town distributors for bulk rates. These out-of-town distributors will either resell our Trinity County cannabis to a manufacturer for profit or package Trinity County grown product under an out-of-town brand label and market it as their own while selling it for 2 to 3 times purchase value. If Trinity County farmers were able to package and have test samples collected locally, they would be able to sell their packaged products to licensed cannabis retail stores all over California. Bulk rates of outdoor mixed lice cannabis range from $300 to $500 per pound. Packaged and store-ready outdoor mixed light cannabis will fetch $800 to $1,600, depending on quality and brand reputation or identity. It is the difference between making a living and operating at a loss. The health of our county cannabis program depends on these distribution outlets to sell licensed products in the California market. I would also like to address the youth-oriented facility and bus stop. I would first like to address the alleged youth-oriented facility at 10 Nugget Lane. This facility has classes for people of all ages. A quick Google search of Trinity Dance and Fitness showed that this facility clearly caters to dancers and fitness enthusiasts of all ages. The exact words were, "Welcome to the only dance studio in Trinity County, surrounded by the Trinity Alps Wilderness Area and Shasta Trinity National Forest. Trinity Dance and Fitness Studios offer performing arts classes to students of all ages." That's right. Our dancers range in age from 1 to 84. We included a screenshot of this business description of Trinity Dance and Fitness in our rebuttal to the business owner's comments. This description has since been completely deleted. The signage on the business did not specify that this business catered specifically to minors or even predominantly. On the Trinity County website, Trinity Dance and Fitness Studios listed business types is sports and recreation. In addition to this, the owner rents to the smoke shop next door with whom her business shares a wall with. Next, I would like to address the registered school bus stops. Per an email sent by the Douglas City School Principal Shannon Ross to Bella Headkey on September 10th, there are only 2 registered bus stops on Nugget Lane. The first bus stop is listed at Tango Blue Saloon, which is over 500 feet from our proposed project. The second bus stop is listed at Amaze Hmong Kitchen. The owner of this business supports our project. They are willing to change his child's drop-off location to not interfere with our project. They understand how important this project is to the farmers and our county. Next, I would like to address the odor control possible issues. All cannabis products will enter the facility through the back door. They will arrive in opaque, smell deterrent totes. Products will not be visible to the public or detectable by smell. Products will be inside additional smell deterrent packaging inside the totes for another layer of odor mitigation. This facility will be equipped with a photocatalytic oxidation air filtration system, which is considered to be state-of-the-art for odor filtration. Photocatalytic oxidation air filters work by combining ultraviolet light rays with titanium dioxide. The reaction breaks down pollutants from the air in the most effective way possible. This machine is harmless and improves overall air quality. There will be absolutely no trimming or manufacturing cannabis occurring at this facility. No live cannabis plants will be stored or cultivated inside this facility at any time. Distributors cannot store live plants in their facilities per state regulations. Security measures. All traffic will enter through the back door under video surveillance. Back door will utilize commercial locks with deadbolts in compliance with state regulations. This facility is not open to the public under any circumstances. All employees and visitors must be over the age of 21, and every visit will be documented per state regulations. All windows visible to the public will be tastefully tinted. Inside the building, windows will be reinforced with metal grates, which will not be visible to the public. The facility will include 24/7 video surveillance. Recordings will be stored for a minimum of 90 days per state regulations. Bay Alarms will monitor this facility 24/7 with motion detectors, glass break alarms, including automatic 911 calls if alarms sound. We will use Coast Central Credit Union for cannabis banking, and no cash will be held on premises after hours. Vehicles owned by Main Street Distribution will be parked under video surveillance and equipped with vehicle alarms per state regulations. No cannabis will be stored in vehicles parked at the facility overnight. Premises access. All business will be conducted through the back door. The front door will never be used unless there is an emergency, i.e. fire. It will remain open from the inside only during business hours in case of such emergency. All employees and visitors will go through an identification check. Their visit and reason for visiting will be documented. What is a distribution facility and how is it different from a dispensary? A distribution facility is not open to the public. It does not sell products to the public. There is no public traffic. A distributor is the link between cannabis cultivators and retail stores. In order for cannabis or cannabis products to be sold on the legal market, they must first go through certified lab testing. Testing labs can only pick up test samples from distribution facilities and not cultivators per state regulations. Once products pass testing, they can be packaged and delivered to retail stores all over the state. Distributors' main function is to facilitate testing sample pickups, package products, and deliver them to retail stores. Tax revenue. Melissa and I have paid the majority of cannabis taxes paid to the county this year and last year, and we will continue to do so. We have never been late once. Given the current budget situation, we hope you consider our project favorably as we have a proven track record of producing results and contributing to the general fund. Trinity County's current cultivation tax is based on yield. From 1 to 100 pounds of cannabis flower, it is taxed at $3.86 per pound. From 101 pounds to 400 pounds of cannabis flower is taxed at the rate of $7.72 per pound. From 401 to 1,000 pounds of cannabis flower is taxed at a rate of $11.58 per pound. If a farmer harvests over 1,000 pounds, the rate is $15.44. In previous Board of Supervisor meetings, Cannabis Director Plavani had suggested the average 10,000 square foot license holder harvests about 400 pounds. There are currently 306 licensed farmers in Trinity County. If we were able to help all our local farmers who harvest an average of 400 pounds, we would be able to generate from $944,000 and $928 to $1.4 million from cultivation taxes, depending on which bracket they fall into, whether that is the $3 or $3.86 per pound, or the $7.72 per pound. In addition to this, Melissa and I propose we contribute or donate 2% of our gross sales to the general fund. There's currently no tax on distribution in Trinity County, and given our current budget situation, we would like to self-impose a tax to help with all the services our residents are currently losing. We would like this added to the conditions in writing. Melissa and I have a proven track record of putting the community first in our decision-making when executing projects. In our dispensary, we built a wall in the front of our unit with a locking door, so if a child accidentally enters the front door, we could control the situation and let them know they need to vacate the premises. This wall was designed by a local engineer and built by a local contractor and cost us upwards of $10,000 when all said and done. This was not required by the Trinity County Cannabis Ordinance, but we felt it was our duty to go above and beyond Trinity County Code to ensure children and the public were unaffected. Inside our dispensary.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes,
you're out of time.
10 minutes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Sorry, Mr. Sutton,
Thank you.
so I understand distributions, you're going to accumulate the product and then send it to a testing lab.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is the testing lab?
Well, they have a couple over the state. The ones we'd be using are generally out of Sacramento.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Sure. No, any other questions?
I have two. I think everything that you said sounds great. And I agree with the need to have this resolved. The question is why was a commercial location like that selected for a distribution center when it has the potential of the thing that's happening right now? Was it because the facility was the best facility for the use and that was the consideration? It seems like it's going to be a neighbor dispute happening here, and that's what it's going to come down to is bad blood among neighbors.
Completely. We understand your concern. We felt we've proven that we can operate in the public and not affect the public and keep them in mind. And we also appreciate that the CHP are across the street. So that is also a deterrent that other businesses appreciate. So we felt we've proven that we would be responsible through our track record.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I've been requested to take a 5-minute recess. Can we take a 5-minute brief? Thank you. And then we'll go to public comment. Excited when I walked in.
Yeah, you just nick of time.
Yeah, like throw you under the bus.
Yeah,
Guess
like-
what?
Yeah.
Stupid debt. Oh, yeah, you signed it.
Kind of my track record.
We're back.
Perfect. Thank you for allowing us a brief recess. At this time, I'd like to bring it back to a public discussion on item 4. If we have any public discussion or any anybody in the room.
I suppose I'm here to disambiguate for you. My name's Timber Beck. I own, teach and direct Trinity Dance and Fitness, also known now as Trinity Dance and Karate at 10 Nugget Lane. I have a 20-year lease on my unit. The other renters there on monthly leases, and I was not notified. If anybody had come to talk to me about this, it would have been easy to tell them. Every year, I order thousands of dollars worth of costumes for parents, all for their children. I have yet to order a tutu for an adult. This is primarily for children. Almost 100% of my clients are kids. I encourage grandpa to come on the floor with his 2.5-year-old if she needs him to hold her hand during music and movement. I have presently 2 adults, which seems to be about my average per semester out of 35, 55, somewhere around their student hours. I generally have about 2 that are over the age of 18. And as they are now with certain health conditions for which they come to me and participate in the class or because of their family. This is a partnership that I also have with Reading School of the Arts. And I understand that there was a cursory call made to them to say, is she on staff? Is she one of your teachers? I am a California credentialed teacher, but no, I'm not one of their staff members. I'm on as a vendor, as I have been since 2020. So in speaking to some of my families that are in the industry, they were aghast that it would even be considered right there. They watched the school buses pull up, not just from Douglas City, but also TAU. They have that as their Glen Road stop. So the students who get off there either come into the studio and go home or go right up Glen Road. So this is a highly populated, densely populated commercial backing a residential area. Another parent said, "What? We already have a disto in Douglas City." That's all out of my lane. I don't know anything about that sort of thing, but they were united in saying there is a better place for this. And so I hope that there's some answers given in the pack that I have given you. You know, our motto remains the same, that, you know, never underestimate kids who can express, protect, and control themselves. That's been our motto from day one. All are welcome, but my training, very, very specific training, is for children. I'm certified far and wide for children, and that's who I teach.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Terry Mines, Junction City. I guess she missed the memo that we're closing the library and the shelter and everything else in our community. And yeah, Douglas City, no, there's no distribution there. We know what happened there. County wouldn't be losing the shelter and library if that would happen, but I don't think that really matters today. I think we're in a much more important position here. We've gotten 0 solutions from our supervisors. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, have been to the meetings that brought up taxes. It's not going to work with our population being elderly and on fixed incomes. I know that the bus stop is at the Tango Blue, which is more than 500 feet away. I know the other one was at the restaurant there, and the people that own the restaurant, Shi and Zong, are more than happy to stop that because they're actual license holders also, and they desperately need an avenue for this. So it's like, this is no joke. I mean, and I don't care if cannabis, any business. I think that everyone up here now has a responsibility to prove probably every single thing that hits your desk until we can get some revenue into this county to fix our problems. I mean, This is the library and animal shelter. I don't know what the heck we're even doing talking about it and why you guys are even wasting this much time up here. This is really serious, you guys. I'm not here because of I want to be here. I don't come here anymore. This is a very upsetting building for me. You've turned it into a cesspool. I don't like to sit in cesspools. Okay. You're a very anti-business. It's disgusting. It's appalling to all the people here that would like some services. I have a lot of children. I have a grandchild here now. I actually might ask my wife to leave. She doesn't want to move, or I wouldn't be here, you guys. Honestly, I don't care to be here anymore. I'm dead serious. I have multiple acres in Calaveras, and I have many businesses outside. So I didn't sit here and let my dreams get destroyed because I worked very hard. But I think that this county, though, is very important to me. And so I think you better really quit playing these games of like asking stupid ass questions and get serious about approving some things here. This is a joke.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments in the room?
Good morning, Chair and members of the commission. I'm Dave Albies. I'm here as a representative for the Douglas City School District, and I've served on the board for 14 plus years. I've also been a member of the committees establishing the bus routes. Unfortunately, Drew Paboni here was not here at that time, but we established and mapped out every bus location in this county, and the planning department should have that, still have that information. Years in the process of determining the 500 and 1,000 feet setbacks, etc. I'm here to say that yes, we have a bus stop, and for decades have had the same bus stop. Businesses don't determine where our bus stops are or can't tell us we're not going to be able to stop there. So agreements with other businesses are irrelevant. We normally, if we have students that are going directly into the youth facility and the dance studio, then we will drop them off right there, because if they're third grade and below, they must have an escort. Either the parents pick them up from the bus and escort them wherever home or wherever they're going to take them, or they have agreements signed at the school with the parents that the instructors at the studio will pick the children up and then basically handhold them all the way to the studio. We have the same agreements for the swim team when it's that time of year at the Loudon Park. So we do stop right there sometimes when they have students that are just being let off right at the studio, dance studio that is. We have the I believe it's called, stop. And then a lot of the parents kind of object to some of the drop off at Tangle Blue. It is a bar establishment. So that's the main reason for the middle of the Nugget Lane. It's always been there, and we will take them with permission from the parents, etc., to the Tangle Blue so they can walk through the golf course to get to their homes on the other side. So firmly established, probably been there longer than I've been alive, that bus stop. So any questions? But what I don't understand is we painstakingly went through and showed where every bus stop was throughout the county. And the planning department was, of course, leading that whole project. So we served on the committees establishing those bus stops so this couldn't happen again. So I'm a little at a loss to why all of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. Questions?
It's public comment. I don't think we're allowed to.
Can I ask a question?
I know you guys were talking a lot about whether it was an established.
Well,
bus stop,
I'm just
etc.
curious. So you're claiming all of Nugget Lane as a bus stop. You can stop anywhere along there?
No, we do have those established. What I did say is we will stop at the studio so that the kids don't have that long walk. We're talking third grade and below. Fourth grade, they can get off and go home on their own.
So the kids that get off at Tangle Blue and walk through the golf course have to be fourth grade and up?
They have to be fourth grade and up, or the parents have to pick them up.
Boy, that makes it hard for the planning department to figure out where an authorized bus stop is, and if you're within 500 feet, if it's the whole street.
Well, that's not what I'm saying, that we take the whole, we have that established bus stop, but we will stop at Tangle Blue and we will stop at the studio based on the needs of the child.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
In looking through the documentation provided by Ms. Beck, I take note of the bus stop schedule for Douglas City Elementary. And similar to what Carol's asking, it just says Nugget Lane. And so I don't know if Bella wants to respond to, you know, the concern that somehow we no longer have the list of bus stops. That is concerning, but to my knowledge, we don't have it. I will certainly reach out to the school district, you know, this coming week and see if you can give us a consolidated list for us to put into GIS. But again, to Carol's point, I don't know how we would utilize a street as a point to determine a particular distance from.
Sure. And our superintendent has sent to the commission those 2 marked bus stops.
If you want me to, I've been here since August 2018. I've never seen nor heard of an authorized list that is in the planning department records. If it was before then it was not carried through an institutional knowledge to the next generation. If he has a copy of it, we would love that. Then
That
I
was
don't,
all
I'm
done
not.
in committees, right in this building, right in this room.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment in the room?
I would just add, because it's jogging more memories, right? I remember seeing these lists in the office. I don't remember seeing anything else.
So you're pointing to the Trinity Alps Unified School District list?
Something similar to this. I remember that in my memory, but I don't remember any other authorized list or resolution or ordinance.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Veronica Kelly-Alves, Douglas City. I must say that I was surprised to see this on the agenda as the location is too close to a youth-oriented facility. Let me state for the record that I do believe Trinity County needs a cannabis distribution facility. To date, the California State Licensing website shows Trinity County has 1 active distribution license. I know that there were 2 approved for the industrial area at the beginning of town, and I believe many would like to know what stage each of these entities are at to begin operations. The applicants have been responsible business owners and generous community members. Their current business is supported by being in the proper location and following the rules set forth. And as he did state earlier, Measure G does not provide any revenue support from distribution facilities. Our Trinity County ordinance describes youth-oriented facility as meaning public park and any establishment that advertises in a manner that identifies the establishment as catering to or providing services primarily intended for minors, or the individuals who regularly patronize, congregate, or assemble at the establishment are predominantly minors. The staff refers to a California Health and Safety Code definition of youth center. They are similar, but they are different. Youth centers are often designed to accommodate unstructured social interaction between different age groups. The Trinity Dance and Fitness Establishment website, along with their social media advertising, shows predominantly minors as their patrons. Tickets for their showcase featured kids' animated movie characters. 2 of their Facebook photos, one from their March showcase and one from November, showed 15 to 16 minors and maybe 2 adults. Their social media posts routinely use the phrase, my kids or these kids. All the photos, as I show, are minors. When I'm asked where is a good place for kids' dance lessons, I say Trinity Dance. This establishment caters predominantly to minors. Offering ancillary options for adults helps fill funding gaps and is a common practice in the dance studio industry. A 5-minute search last night of Reading Dance Studios also mentions open to all ages, come one, come all, but here are the classes. And they don't currently offer an adult-only class that I'm aware of at Trinity Dance. There appears to be zero ambiguity in knowing and determining that Trinity Dance and Fitness is a youth-oriented facility as defined by Ordinance 315828, Section 17.43B-010. Trying to put a square peg in a round hole continues to cause division. We don't need that. We have an ordinance that clearly excludes 50 Nugget Lane, number C, as an allowable space for cannabis distribution. As a side note, I would love to see an ordinance that doesn't allow tobacco operations also within 1,000 feet, but that will have to be a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comment in the room? Hello, Commission. My name is Taro Dussault. I am the owner of G-Force Gymnastics, a 30-year business. We did start here. I'll get the oohs and ahs out of the way right away. I met my wife here at Trinity High 38 years ago in a gymnastics class. We've made an entire career out of it. 15 years here in this area, multiple locations, and then 15 years away from this area to run a larger facility. We find ourselves back and in the process of trying to find and build a nationally ranked program for the community. We'll start with a couple of quick things in here. I think if we only had one issue, a variance would be probably doable, but because we have 3 existing, and I personally, and this will be the public's first announcement, that I've just purchased 90 Nugget Lane, the old Marinos building, with the full intention of working with the planning department, obviously, of demolishing what is there currently and building a brand new gymnastics facility for the community. Obviously, this will be a ongoing endeavor that will take time, but that will definitely put us within this. There's been some, one other quick thing is I applaud the idea of bringing in a distribution center. The owner of this particular building told me a long time ago when I was a young man that every business has a place in this community. It's just that that business has to find the right one. He told me that while we were trying to rezone a portion of the industrial site for a gymnastics facility inside the Trinity Players. And so we had to take time to do that. So I applauded that they're working towards that. I just think that this facility may not work in its current location, and that in the very near future, we have some other plans for this strip that will also, Timber and I have discussed redoing the bowling alley to be a teen center in conjunction with a gymnastics center that I build, plus her dance studio. We're trying to make this a very family-oriented strip in the middle of this community. 2 other quick things. The Lions Club used to put bus stops that would keep kids dry throughout every bus stop in Trinity County. The one that was on Nugget Lane was directly in front of the floor store, this particular location, as Dave Moreau, the owner of the floor store, was the head of the Lions department there. I'm about to run out of time. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them, as this is my town.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you.
Is there any other comment in the room?
Good evening, Chair. My name is Chia Shang, owner of Ame's Small Kitchen. So I hope I can answer a lot of questions that we have tonight. First and foremost, I'm very happy that, we need a distribution center here just for our cannabis program. We need to have an outlet and keep our products in here. Continuing with that in regards to the bus stop, as Director Drew have said, my bus stop is not a designated stop, but because I have the restaurant, my child needs to come home to me. So they have made a way to make the stop so my Amy can come home. I don't want her to be an issue. If I have to close for that 15 minutes to go get her and come back, I will do that, but I don't want her to be the issue. I really hope that you guys take into consideration that this distribution center will move Trinity County a future. So I really hope that you guys take that into consideration. Setbacks, variance, I don't know if that's going to solve the issue. I think it's just going to delay Trinity County in our development financially. So, yeah. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment in the room?
Chair Barrett, Planning Commissioners Lisa Wright, Lewiston. This is really a tough one. Code is code, right? I think there's this kind of misperception that somehow anything cannabis related is harmful to everyone, including children. If you have a facility of this nature, it's probably one of the, you wouldn't even know it was there because it's so contained. It's so highly regulated with cameras and locks and entrances. You literally would not know it was there unless you were told that it was there. There isn't any really safety concerns. I would be more concerned in this particular location by the smoke shop because that's a really youth kind of dangerous place, as well as talked about Tango Blue a number of times, alcohol. That's more dangerous to children than an enclosed distribution center. But I know you have things, that are code related to address. There's ambiguity certainly in the youth-oriented facility. And someone had mentioned perhaps we need to look at business licenses where you can declare what your business type is. I think you can also potentially look on the Secretary of State's website if there's an entity that's associated, because you have to declare a certain NAIC code, I believe, which categorizes your business in a certain category. That might be additional place to look at. But the overall economic benefit of having distribution here is really highly impactful in a positive way. We have some distribution not currently very active. And what has happened to some farmers is they send in bulk their product to distributors in different counties, and they literally either don't get it back, they never get paid. There's very little control over it. And so to have a local distribution that's very committed to our local farmers could go really a long way in helping the farmers not only be successful, but generate the tax revenue that was mentioned, right? Because we're not meeting those kind of numbers from the cultivation tax. And to donate 2% of their sales, that's huge. So it's a tough decision, you have to wrangle with, but I certainly would encourage you to fall on the supporting the business side, and that they're really this whole idea that there's this danger of cannabis. We're just kind of perpetuating this idea that it's a bad thing. And it really isn't. Regulated cannabis is not a bad thing. It's good for our community if we accept it that way and treat it that way and embrace it that way. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments in the room? Any other comments on Zoom?
We had one, but he seems to have gone away. Oh, he's here. Yes. Luke, go ahead and unmute yourself. Luke, on Zoom, can you unmute yourself? Luke is silent.
Can we bring it back to the commission for a motion? Public comment.
Well, this is really, really hard. So I'm going to throw out a motion for discussion. I move that the Planning Commission make a determination that the project should be approved, find the project to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to sections 15301, and adopt resolution number PC 2024-03, attachment L, a conditional use permit based on the recommended findings stated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval found in resolution number 2024-03, of the Trinity County Planning Commission. And I would like to add that the following conditions be added to Exhibit A. The Douglas City School District must agree in writing to designate the authorized bus stop more than 500 feet away. And the applicant's effort to donate a percent of sales be recorded.
I'll second your motion.
Yes.
So discussion wise, this is really hard. I agree. We need a distribution facility. To me, the bottom line is there's a logic to cultivation and retail licenses and things like that, having a distance away from youth-oriented facilities and school bus stops, because we don't want to expose kids to cannabis under certain circumstances. But as was pointed out, to me, this is kind of a black box. I mean, I don't know that a kid walking by is ever going to know that that's what is happening behind that storefront. And so it doesn't meet the ordinance, but it meets the spirit of what we're trying to do, which is protect our kids and at the same time promote economic development. So I think that's why I recommended approval for discussion. I do think that the school district could be a little bit more specific about where exactly the bus stop is. Maybe they won't agree to that condition, I don't know. But that's why I threw that out there.
Anybody else?
I also agree that it's a very difficult decision and to make. I would say, having spoken to various people in the last few days to get more and more information about this, it has been equated to a bank for cannabis, and so that it's very contained and it has many measures in place to protect. And so in addition to that, speaking with some of the residents behind, they were in support of such a distribution center in this location as well. Some of the bigger concerns with odor and smell will be abated with the use of their additional technology. And from having viewed other facilities using similar technologies, you wouldn't know that they're there from afar. You wouldn't even know that it's active. So I do very much agree with that statement. And it was also very much on my mind going into this discussion tonight about odors. And I'm glad that it was also addressed in public comment.
So
Go ahead.
I didn't feel like we truly had enough data to make that determination. I think that's still a question, an ambiguous thing that needs to be further defined, maybe in a future ordinance or with more data, but I didn't feel comfortable making that decision, so I purposely went to, that's just not something that we're deciding at the moment.
I would also add to that businesses change. We've seen a lot of turnover throughout Trinity County. And so with a 20-year lease, that shows good opportunity, but when was that signed? When is it going to end? Are they going to ask for an increase in rent? And would that jeopardize the dance studio? We don't know. And I think that's a hard thing to answer as well. When you own a building and you're operating it on your own, you could have it be what you wish and what you want, as long as you can make it successful. But again, even individuals who own buildings and try to make a run for it aren't always successful. We can see many outcomes of that sitting in our main street in our historic district.
Commissioner Ellis, thoughts?
There's always two sides. And and the concerns are being brought up by somebody that has a concern for their business as well. And that we have to consider that. That's only fair. There is a person in this room that has had a business there for several years and sees this as a potential threat. And that needs to be assuaged somehow, because I agree, we need you here doing what you're trying to do. But how do you not apply this to the next person and the next person? We're not even staying close to, it's a complete total variance, right? It's distance wise, it's either 200 feet or 127, whichever one is there that the distance is. And it's a matter of choice, whether it's a youth facility or not. In this room, there is a group of people that do not want it to be a youth facility. And there are people in this room that want it to be a youth facility. And we're up here determining that. I've never even been in the building. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's what this all hinges on.
Right, and I'm saying I don't feel comfortable tonight saying yes or no, is it a youth-oriented facility? So by moving to the next step, we're not violating the ordinance. We just haven't made that determination. We would be violating the ordinance if the bus stop was right in front, but with the caveat that Douglas City School has to say it's not right in front, it can be 500 feet away, then we could move forward and still be in compliance with the ordinance.
Thank you. My own thoughts. I hear figures like $900,000 and $1.4 million annually generated in taxes, and I get giddy. The county is in serious financial difficulty. It's not going to improve with potential lawsuits coming from the jail. It's only going to get worse, everybody. The applicant's commitment to donate 2% of profits to the community is heartwarming. I don't see any reason why we can't. I mean, this business has committed to jump through all the hoops. You will not be able to identify what type of business it is. There's no outdoor signage, I'm sorry. Absolutely. Get to business, get making some money, help the county out.
I recognize that the county is in dire strait, or not in dire straits, but has a budget issue. Sorry, friends. But that it is part of the discussion, but it's not the question of the code that is before us today. And so that's one thing. And so for me, the 2%, cool, whatever, but I think that should be taken off the table. And I don't think that should be contingent on our decisions tonight. I think they should pay their regular taxes, and that should be what it is. That's adding like a carrot, like they're going to pay the county for things to move forward. And I don't think that's appropriate. So cool. There's other ways to use that money, donate that money, do great things. I don't think that a 2% pledge is appropriate.
I can take that off my motion if the seconder agrees, which is you.
I would agree.
Okay, so we will delete that part of my motion. But we're still gonna.
I don't believe you discussed the 2% in your motion, so I don't think you can remove it.
She did. It was the third point.
The 2% wasn't stated, but it was implied.
She asked for it to be recorded.
Oh, recorded. Okay,
Yeah.
recorded.
So we will delete that.
Just while I agree with your sentiment that it's not a carrot, it's a commitment to the community that they are investing in. I think it's wrong to look a gift horse in the mouth. While I do respect you saying it's essentially dangling a carrot for the county, but to me, I look at it as an open heart investment in the community. I think it's wrong to close the door of generosity.
I think they can still make their generosity known without it being officially recorded.
Okay. Okay. I'm good with that.
I wholeheartedly agree. It should not be in there.
Okay. So we have an amended motion on the table. We want to do a roll call?
Commissioner Fleets, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fall?
Aye.
Commissioner Ellis?
I'm going to abstain.
And Chairman Barrett?
Aye.
Okay, that's 3 ayes, 1 abstain. Hold on. Motion passes. As, yep.
Correct. And it does need to go back to Douglas City School District before it's going to actually work.
Congratulations. Okay, so we have no more items on the agenda. Can we go to commissioner reports or announcements?
I have a announcement and a question for our directors who are sitting there. So I did want to announce that a couple years ago, there was a conflict of interest complaint filed against me to the Fair Political Practices Commission, complaining that there was a conflict of interest for me to vote on opt-out areas since I live in an opt-out area. I did receive finally a determination from the FPPC that that complaint was not justified. And so the same complaint had been filed against Commissioner Sharp because he also was residing in an opt-out area and voted on opt-out area in the general plan. And so anyway, it is not a conflict of interest for a commissioner who lives in an opt-out area to vote yay or nay on opt-out areas in general, or future designation or anything like that. Just want to let you guys know.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I've been getting a question at the Fire Chiefs Association meeting and from CAL FIRE about the director's use permits for essentially RVs associated with the requirement for a cannabis cultivation facility that project that they have a building. And so the question that's coming from the chiefs is, so there's a director's use permit that lets them essentially put an RV there and cultivate cannabis. The CAL FIRE does not feel that they should be responsible for enforcing 4290 requirements as far as the road, emergency access and all that, because there's not a building there yet. But it's considered a building in terms of meeting the code. So, so the question I'm getting is, why is our enforcement staff or building department not enforcing the requirements that they have a road and emergency, access for emergency vehicles and all the other things that normally would be required if they were building and having a residence?
It's a great question. Question that I've also been curious about, and Bella may have some insights as well, but I'm happy to do my best to answer the question. As I understand, well, two separate things. One, I would encourage all of the commissioners to communicate with their supervisor, as I think it's quite important, given that right now CAL FIRE out of the kindness of their heart, perhaps, essentially acts as the county fire marshal. And so I think it's appropriate going forward at some point, I guess, when we have the budget to accomplish that, that we enter into a formal MOU with CAL FIRE, similar to, I believe, what Shasta County has, where they act in the capacity of the fire marshal. I've also been, well, so let me clarify that the requirement for the RVDUP is not in code. That is a policy that was established by, my predecessor, which I continue to carry forward. The intent there is to facilitate meeting generally the intent of having sanitary waste disposal facilities for that cultivation site. And so in order to obtain an RVDUP, you have to have a final septic system. And I think the intention there being that the RV would be hooked up to the septic system. Related to 4290 compliance, I've asked a similar question to you, Commissioner Fall, where it's quite confusing to me in terms of the order of operations, whether it be for an RVDUP or any other structure, including a legal dwelling, that the 4290 sign off is not accomplished until basically the last step of that building, the last step prior to, there's the final inspection from the building inspector related to the construction. And then somewhere around that time, as I understand it, then 4290 compliance is determined. So from my perspective, it's a little confusing because I agree that in terms of establishing 4290 compliance, just practically speaking, given that, I built a house for myself in Trinity County, it would be terrible to build a house and then come to realize that the access road that you put in doesn't meet 4290 standards and you've finished your house, but you can't get your certificate of occupancy.
Right, so.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
Couple things I want to add is that to his first point, the fire marshal proposal has been integrated into the general plan. So that's what you can reference. We've gotten, we created that from a direct comment from our local CAL FIRE that this has been an issue for a number of years. I don't even know how long. 4290 and 4292, as you're aware, is complex. But really, before I even give any type of professional or personal opinion, I think that it's important that we acknowledge that the building department is not in the room. Ed can maybe represent the building department, but that's important to this discussion. And I think that the last time I tried to have it at the fire safe meeting, they were not in the room either. So that's kind of what I deferred to there. I'm not trying to kick the can, but it needs to be an all-encompassing meeting. I'm not throwing Ed under the bus, but I brought that issue up to him. He is aware of it. Sorry, I lost the CAL FIRE is a part of the process. They write, which I've asked them to write something else, but they write on all of and I appreciate their service wholeheartedly. They write, must comply with 4290 on every single referral for a project that I send them. I am not qualified nor capable of making sure that a site meets 4290. That is an extremely complex code, and I would not think that a planner would be responsible for that. And I would really implore them, and I have asked them, go look at the site. And some of them have, I've had previous people that have, and the current person has as well. But of course, okay, so to finish that other sentence, is that I want them to give us more direct comments. Does it or doesn't it? And what does it need to meet it? Much like a road standard for DOT would give you the long, lengthy list of all of the different requirements that's required in order to fully meet their code for a specific site. But again, right, their main priority is firefighting, and during fire season, that means that everything stops. So that's why I always circle back to this idea of a contracted fire marshal, because we currently just don't have the resources, right, to do that job, but we're using the resources that we have to the full extent.
The reason it comes up at the fire chiefs meeting is the chiefs are recognizing that, these RVs as legal dwellings are being placed, for cannabis cultivation purposes without adequate, say, egress or ingress. They don't necessarily have water storage for water firefighting. They don't have turnarounds necessarily. And so the fire chiefs are starting to comment on the things that go out for comment to say, you need to have X, Y, Z. They have a little bit more maybe expertise than Bella. But anyway, I just want to bring it to your attention and see if there's a way that we can come up with kind of a way to at least get some basic public safety issues addressed when the director's use permit is issued for these RVs as legal dwellings.
Yep, and and I can say, first and foremost, I'm not really sure why Bella didn't mention it, but we're actually reviewing this entire process right now with Bella and Cody. So this actually is perfect timing for something like that to be brought up. I have kind of been out of the loop for a little bit, dealing with some medical issues with family, but we are restarting this process of review, finding out exactly what we need to do going forward. And that is a huge concern. And I love the fact that it is being brought up, where Cody can go to a fire chief meeting, gather some more information, potentially even bring that here, because we are going to be looking at, are we going to continue in the same code vein, the same thing that Drew brought up. We don't really have this hard written rule of what we do when we do it for RV DUPs. Should we? And so should we do away with it, or should it be a DUP? And so that's why we're actually looking at the entire process now. As far as I'm concerned, we could agendize this for a later planning commission meeting and have Cody come in and let's just have a good discussion about it. But I would first recommend him go to a planning commit or to a fire chief meeting and actually broach the subject and talk to them about it first to gather some more information. But that's kind of where I stand with it. I think it's good.
Great. That's great to hear that you guys are talking about it. And yeah, I think either avenue, talking to the fire chiefs or coming to us and just trying to figure out where to go from here would be wonderful.
Public health and safety should always be number one. So definitely agree.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports? I have one, two actually. So this last Saturday, I went over to Hayfork. I was invited by the Hmong community to come over and enjoy part of their celebration. And it was very nice to be welcomed in their community. They really went out of their way to make me feel accepted. There's some beautiful food, some local dancers. It was very nice to experience some of their culture. So it was excellent. And then the other thing I have is I was approached by a constituent member at 8060 State Highway 3 in Hayfork in relation to a subdivision that's been going on for a long period of time. The person I spoke to said that they have jumped through all of the hoops and it has gotten to the county level and the county has more or less stalled. And they just would like to know, is there anything they need to do or what can they do to help proceed with this? They said they've been about 2 years into this. They have all the surveyors, everything signed off on. They mentioned speaking to Bella.
Is this the Yang
No,
project?
no, this is Mearson.
Oh, okay. That's a final map that's been recently submitted.
Copy.
We need more staff for that to move faster.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And that's all I have. Director's report. Thank you.
I think actually, Drew, do you want to go first? Do you want to have a report? Okay, all right. We'll knock this out. This will be fun because I haven't been here in a while. It's good to be here and see everyone. But first and foremost, I want to thank the Planning Commission tonight for really looking at the issues and finding a way forward for a project. Always remember that we can condition these things as we go forward. When we're looking at what's going on, we can set conditions, or you can set conditions, and make sure that the things for public health and safety are met. So I just really appreciate the depth of the conversation and just the willingness to engage in that. And really, first and foremost, let me back up. I want to thank staff. I don't know that I've ever actually sat here and thanked staff, but as we lost our assistant planner and we're in second interview is going to be Monday for replacing that assistant planner, We're in a time when I don't want to dwell on doom and gloom of budgetary crises. We've kind of been in that for the last 2 years that I've been here with planning. We're always trying to make ends meet. We're always trying to make things work. We're always trying to increase revenues. And so I just want to say wholeheartedly, thank you so much for my staff all the way across the board from everyone. There's a lot of people that actually work behind the scenes that nobody ever even knows about. They don't even talk to. So I just really appreciate everybody doing what you're doing on a daily basis, because that's really what makes this whole machine work. So thank you. For the public that was here tonight, I think it's very important to have people that are going to come in and voice their opinions, not yelling and screaming, which we didn't have any of that, which was great, but coming in and giving your opinions in an intelligent manner so they can be considered. The Planning Commission, unless you're doing like Commissioner Flights and actually going door to door in a subdivision, it sounded like over behind the market, over there on Nugget Lane. They don't really know. They don't have a lot to work with unless somebody's contacting them, unless somebody's giving them information, giving those opinions. So I appreciate people that actually come in intelligibly, thoughtfully, giving their opinions on these situations, because that's really what democracy is. We want to be able to hear all sides of it, and we can't do it without the public. So thank you for coming in tonight. And that's everything for me.
I have one thing to add, Ed. So in the budget write-up submitted by CKO Tothill, one of the budget ways to solve the budget was to cut $100,000 out of the budget for the consultant, which is supporting Bella. And I would like to ask the rest of the Planning Commission for consensus that we think that is a really bad idea. Can you convey that for us?
Definitely will. And I will tell you, when me and Bella actually reviewed that, she almost immediately, I would say, came to me and said, we got to have a meeting with the CAO and actually figure out what is actually meant here. And it's true, everything is on the table. So we have to stomach some of these things, but I just really appreciate just the.
To me, it's counterproductive. They want to promote economic development, but at the same time, they would shut down the process that allows subdivisions and all that kind of stuff. And so it doesn't make sense to not fund that part of the planning department that promotes economic development.
100% agree.
Sorry, wasn't picking me up. I would add that, like I said to you earlier, we are moving forward on things. And a lot of what I've been doing in the first 9 months that I've been in this role is really looking at all of the existing contracts and all of the existing processes and figuring out how we can make them better and work more efficiently, and what are the gaps in communication. And SHN being one of them. We are working on a new streamlined process to hopefully have them have contact with applicants. I don't want to speak too soon because we need to keep working with them, but that would make it so there isn't as much of a bottleneck with me, right, to move things forward for them to almost be a full person. Not that they are, but I could go on and on about how much they've helped me. I've worked with them for 7 years. They're basically my other coworker, except they're on a computer, and sometimes I'll see them in real life. But they helped get this time extension here today. They wrote the whole staff report. I reviewed it with them. I fully understood it. And then I presented it, and they were online. I forgot to mention it, but Gary was online for 20 minutes. I made sure he was the first item of the night so we could not, be billed more than that. But like those little things, that's what I'm trying to pay attention to. And they've seriously been helping me. So if you want, you guys are more than welcome to talk to your supervisors. I've made it very clear what my position is. It's far less expensive than a director. In an ideal world, we would have a planning division director. I don't want to give a number, but they're far less expensive. And Rory, not to give you such a curt answer before, because that is a long discussion that really just ends in more staff. But I just want to say that we're also working on processes that weren't written. So there is no written final map process. So I'm currently working on that with SHN so we can match other jurisdictions. And then hopefully later on, those things will be moving forward. Jordan will be a part of that because they're nearing their final map as well.
I'll let it slide. Director, oh,
I was just wondering how many of the subdivision projects we have open at the moment.
Whew. I'll start printing that out when I come here. But I think there's there's somewhere between 5 and 10.
Okay.
And there's also there's larger and smaller land divisions, and we get inquiries for land divisions at least once a week.
Okay.
But usually it's well, we'll tell them how long it takes, and then they don't
Okay.
normally turn in.
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Hedke. Director Plabani, do you have anything for us?
I'd like to thank you all for your consideration on this item this evening and apologize, if you felt like I put you in a difficult situation for, the request for that determination. So thank you.
Thank you.
We booted it. We punted.
Oh, yeah.
I would just add a little blurb for the community plan meetings that are happening in October. Please go to trinity2050.com to see all of the dates and times. And the county's reviewing internally the plans right now, so they'll be out as soon as they possibly can.
Cool.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting. Woo, look at me go. I'm trying to beat Todd's record. I lost it.